and especially those of his own house. He had denied the faith, and he is worse than an infidel. That's not what Ernest says. That's what the Bible says. 1 Timothy 5 and 8 says it. But if any provide not for his own, and especially those of his own house, if you don't take care of your own family, your own children, your wife, or whatever you call them these days, they change their names by the days. The Bible says you have denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever and an infidel. In other words, the Bible said don't even dare say you saved. But this is what's happening in our day and time. We have absentee fathers, MIAs, if you will, missing in action. They're not there, and I call them sperm donors. They make children, and they're not there to support them. This cannot be pleasing in God's eyes, to have men create children and not be there to support them, to provide for them and their families, to be the spiritual leader and the financial provider for his family. And that's what we have in our young men, and it's up to us, the age, the older men, we got to teach them better than that. We got to teach our young men, by 16 you need to be working, because it builds character. By 16 you should be working. McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, it doesn't matter, summer job, something, because that age to me is the age when young men, they're starting to go to the level where they're starting to think that they're grown, even though they're not. And that's the age that they need to be working by then, in my estimation, because if you miss them at that age, and especially if you let them get out of high school without working, many times it makes it that much difficult for them to get a job and to want to be a provider, because they still are dependent on mama and daddy. That's why it's so important for young men to get a job and work. Get a job, work, because it builds character. It makes you a person that understands responsibilities when you work and begin to make money, even though you may be still in high school at age 16, you should be. But it builds character. You become responsible, and you understand responsibilities, paying bills, and the value of money. These things are important to make our young men understand the value of working and money. They need that. By the time I was 16, I bought my very first car. Very first car with my own money, by myself. Very first car, 69 Dodge, never forget it. By 16, I had my driver's license, bought my very first car. My last 2 years of school, I was able to drive myself to school. I went and got a job and worked throughout high school. Even years before that, as early as 13 to 14, I used to go well, actually before that, but I go to 13 and 14. By age 13, between 13 and 14, I decided I need to find a way to make consistent money, because at that age I wasn't old enough to hold a real job. So I saved up enough money from picking up cans and bottles. They used to sell 32-ounce bottles that were glass. You could take them and get 20 cents a bottle. Some of you know what I'm talking about. You young folks have no idea. Save those Coca-Cola 32-ounce bottles, take them to the store. You get a 6-pack, you got $1.20. And then I would go around the neighborhood and ask the older people in the neighborhood, do you need me to take out your garbage? So I had some clientele. So they would start paying me $2 a month. I know that wasn't much, but it was good to me. I take their garbage out once a week, but I got enough clients. So back then, if you're talking about the late 70s, going into the early 80s, you get $10 a month. I mean, you get 5 clients, $2 each, $10 a month. That's a lot of money. And so then I would save my money, and then I said, now I need to invest to make more money. So I start going, and when I would get my hair cut, I would sit around and watch the barbers, how they would cut hair. And I taught myself visually how to cut hair by watching them. And by the end of my age 13, I was able to save up enough money. I bought my own clippers, and I started cutting hair for $2 a head to the guys in our neighborhood. So then I had consistent income. And you see, the point of the matter is thinking of ways to make money. Becoming responsible. Nowadays, young men have to be beat down out the house to go get a job. You have to tell them you're going to strip everything from them to get a job. But what happened to that desire within our young brothers to want to do something yourself, to want to be something, to make things happen for yourself? And that's how I founded my way through the early years of my middle school to high school. And then by high school, I was able to get a real job and continue to make money. But I didn't wait till I got old enough. I started when I was young, figuring out ways to make money so I wouldn't have to ask my mother for every time you need $1. Sometimes you got grown men going to mom and daddy asking for $1, $2. That shouldn't be happening, because we should have our own desires. And parents, it's up to us to teach them like we were taught, to work, get a job. You see, I came up in Mississippi where people was in the cotton fields, and we would look forward, and I never got a chance to physically do that, but because it seems like they had certain people, and once you got hooked on to the ones that was doing the summer job programs or doing the cotton, they just kept them on, so it was hard to get on where I was located. But many young people would go and work in the cotton fields to make money. That's right. Pick cotton, but they was making money. And during that time, we would be so excited. They had garbage trucks, and I remember the time I got a job where I was going to help cleaning out ditches, and I was young in my early teenage years. Anything to make money. We were just looking around trying to find some way to make money. The legal way. Not selling drugs to make money. But where's that desire now in young men? To go and find a job, do something to make money. It builds character, and then you start understanding how important you are, and you won't feel like a bum. You won't have low self-esteem because you're doing something that brings value to your life. Then you start feeling like a real man. Most of the young men we see today that saying they're a man, they can't even buy themselves a bologna sandwich. I'm a man. What you gonna eat? Oh, I'm going to get out of my refrigerator. You can't even buy yourself a French fry, and you talking about you're a man. We got to do something about this, brother. But we're in that time where men just don't have the same desire to be men the way they used to. And in the homes, they end up making babies and not there to support the babies. The MIAs, the sperm donors, as I call them, are not there to provide for their wife and their children because they didn't learn to work when they were younger. Thank God for these single moms. Godly single moms that support the families even when the sperm donors are not there. Thank God for the single mom that was able to carry the family by herself without the sperm donors being around. Thank God for that. But even on another scale, I'm seeing a troubling trend, because it's not just all the men. Sisters, you got to get your dose here too. I'm seeing a disturbing trend that is happening here today, just in the surroundings. And, it's something, and my point with this message today is we have to look at ourselves, and for the older brothers, we got to look at what are we doing for the younger brothers. What are we doing to help prepare them to be men? So we got to take a closer look at ourselves to make sure we're doing our part. And for the sisters, you got to make sure you're doing your part for our younger women to make sure they grow up knowing how to be real.